Good morning, dear colleagues. It's my pleasure to welcome you for the third edition of this series of videos on TREIO, on the training of European Investigation Order, which is a European project. And within this series, we try to get a better overview about where we stand in Europe at the moment and where this is going to go to. And it's my big privilege and my big pleasure to introduce Dr. Cristian Nicolau to you today. I'm very excited about this opportunity because Dr. Nicolau is the head of the relevant unit in the European Commission. He's the head of the e-Justice, IT and Document Management Unit of the Directorate General for Justice and Consumers of the European Commission. So he's probably the expert on the matter we are going to talk about in Europe. His work is dedicated to shaping the e-justice policy and to oversee the implementation of the corresponding action plans on a European level. And as an information resource manager, he's responsible for the whole portfolio of IT systems of the DG Justice and Consumers. Before joining the European institutions, Cristian worked for the Romanian Ministry of Agriculture, and he worked as a consultant for the World Bank. He's the author of several books and scientific papers and has significant experience in e-government, in particular with impact on assessments. I'm very, very happy that you are here with us, together with Eva Koreniak and Katarina Polikonopoulos, who are working for TREIO, the European project in which this is happening at the moment. Dr. Nicolau, also your background is beautiful because it indicates so well where we stand. It's right before Christmas 2022. And the tree in the background brings us already in the right mood. But before celebrating, let's talk a little bit more about substantial issues, one of them being obviously the European Investigation Order. And perhaps you could, just for those who haven't had the opportunity to follow the first two editions of this, perhaps you could give us a very short overview about what the European Investigation Order is, in how far the system has changed since 2017, and also in how far e-Codex and eIDAS systems play a role in this transition process.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fargo, for the introduction and for the invitation. I would like to say hello also to Dr. Koreniak and Dr. Polikonopoulos. And regarding the directive on the European Investigation Order in criminal matter, I would just want to recall that it establishes a single comprehensive framework that allows authorities in one member state to obtain evidence from another member state. The system is based on mutual recognition principle, which in essence means that an executing state is obliged to recognize an EIO and ensure its execution under the same modalities as if the investigative measure was ordered by an authority of its state, unless there is also grounds for refusal. The EIO directive replaced the existing frameworks for gathering of evidence, such as the 2000 EU Mutual Legal Assistance Convention.
Thank you very much for this overview. I'll hand over to Katarina, please. You're on mute, unfortunately, Katarina. It's a feature, not a bug.
Thank you very much. Apologies for that. Thank you, Dr. Nicolau, and thank you for joining us today. So I wanted to, you briefly explained sort of what an EIO is and what it's meant to do. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the e-Codex and the eIDAS systems. So those are essentially online systems, right? That are supposed to, digital systems that are supposed to be platforms to transmit and receive EIO requests, correct?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. And what advantages do you see those systems having over paper requests, for example?
Well, first of all, the e-evidence digital exchange system, it's designed with the participation of all EU member states. Even if those member states are not live yet, they have participated in the design, and I would say also in the build of the system. Like any other IT system, the transmission it's almost instantaneous. So that would be one of the advantages. Also, the transmission is secure, and we are using the e-codec system, which is the e-justice communication via online data exchange. It's a tool that allows secure communication between IT systems that are located in different member states. So it is very important that we are able to connect, for instance, a national case management system in one member state with another case management system in another member state. Also, the e-evidence digital exchange system provides for the possibility of qualified electronic signature, access to machine translation, and the possibility to verify that all compulsory fields in a European investigation form are filled in, which leads also to improving the rates of acceptability of the EIO forms from the executing authority. Other feature, it keeps the exchanges in only one place. Imagine, for instance, that this exchange would have still be done electronically via email, where the exchange would have not been secure, but then also information would have been scattered between multiple case handlers and multiple participants. Whereas when we are speaking about the e-evidence digital exchange system, all case files are in one place. They can be transferred from one case handler to the other, and also can be archived as such.
I mean, that sounds like there are a lot of advantages to doing this electronically. And probably from a prosecution point of view, the first one would be just the timing, right? Because a lot of these, I imagine, are time sensitive, these requests. We spoke with the prosecutor's office last week, and he mentioned that the online system, so the EIDAS system, hasn't really been widely adopted yet, and that they're still doing paper requests. And he mentioned a little bit about maybe that the form online being too complicated. Do you have any opinion as to why there might not yet be wide adoption? Because it sounds like there are a lot of advantages to the digital system. And do you also have any opinions as to what could be done to improve adoption of the digital system?
Thank you. As a matter of fact, I do have an opinion about these questions. First of all, the e-evidence digital exchange system has only went live in April this year, and it's piloted by authorities in Austria, Belgium, Germany, Spain, France, Luxembourg, Latvia, and Portugal. And this is one of the reasons for which, even in those countries, the system is, I would say, underused, because there are only a few users that have actual access to the system. Therefore, the most of the exchanges are still done under paper format. Mm-hmm. The system is built by the Commission on a mandate from the Council, but under voluntary cooperation. So there is no obligativity to use the system. On the other hand, if we are looking and realizing that this is the first largest cooperation between member states at this scale, we can understand why the rate of adoption is rather slow, because everybody wants to have the proof of this concept before joining in. On the other hand, we have another 10 member states that have tested the exchanges with the e-evidence digital exchange system, and they will be joining as of 2023. Also, the TREIO project is one of the twinning activity for the implementation of the e-evidence digital exchange system, because the project provides the possibility not only to train the practitioners in member states about the use of the system, but also about the use of the European investigation order as a cross-border judicial instrument. We have also to realize that we are looking at thousands of competent authorities across Europe to be added in the system, and some 300,000 potential users. This is really no small endeavor, and I think the phased approach is a very correct one, and it's a very logical one. I would not see the rather slow uptake of the system as a worrying factor, but actually as a normal process by this time of the day.
Thank you. And yes, thank you for joining also from my side. So, as you said, the EIDAS system is quite recent, went live quite recently. So, but nonetheless, do you think that maybe it should be mandatory, if not now, maybe at some point in the future?
I personally think that the system should be mandatory, but most importantly, member state authorities think that the system should be made mandatory. We have now negotiated in the Council a digitalization proposal that makes the use of the e-evidence digital exchange system mandatory for EIO, but also for other cross-border judicial instruments. We are speaking in total about 24 instruments in civil justice and criminal justice that will be supported by the e-evidence digital exchange system in a mandatory manner. And what is interesting is that when we did the impact assessment, we have consulted the member states and we looked into three options. One would be the mandatory use of the system for court to court, competent authority to competent authority communication. The other option was that the system is made optional. And the third one, that the system is mandatorily available, meaning that all member states are obliged to have such a system, but they are not obliged to use it when we have communication from competent authority to competent authority. And the great majority of the member states, they were very clear in saying, if we are to use the system, this system should be mandatory. So not only that we arrive to have the system mandatory for the European investigation order, but also for another 23 cross-border judicial cooperation instruments in criminal justice and civil and commercial justice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that is interesting. And as you mentioned, yes, there are also thousands of authorities and potential users, and as well as so differences between these countries and authorities, especially also for respect for fundamental rights across European countries. And do you think that this kind of liberal sharing of information under EIOs could be risky given these differences?
I think from the way that EIOs and the evidence that is associated to it is shared and exchanged, the IT system is the most secure manner. Paper can be much easily lost or intercepted, and accompanying evidence. So from the point of view of security, I think that the digital manner is the most secure way. On the other hand, we should not consider that if the information is exchanged via an IT system, this exchange is libeler. Is still regulated by the same cross-border judicial cooperation instrument, which in itself is designed to respect the fundamental rights and the protection of data. So to shortly answer, in terms of risk, I think that the European investigation order exchange through the e-evidence digital exchange system, it's reducing the risk of mishandling data and personal data.
So it is, one might say that it's the most secure way of exchanging information as we have now.
Indeed.
Yeah, okay.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. And a more like practical question, is there any different procedure where access to evidence is very urgent, or that there is a high risk of that this evidence might be destroyed or lost without imminent action, than to another cases where there is no such risk?
To my knowledge, there is no other procedure that makes this exchange faster. What happened in real life is that prosecutors are exchanging between themselves directly and are trying to make this process faster without the use of an IT system, which of course in itself increases the risk that the procedure is not acceptable in court, or that other problems might arrive to it. So when using an IT system like the e-evidence digital exchange system, this is the most secure way, the safest and the fastest way to send an European investigation order from one competent authority to another. Also, you should consider that the system is not only for the transmission of the EIO. The system allows filling in the EIO, and also it covers the process inside the competent authority between the moment that the European investigation order is drafted and the moment that the European investigation order is signed and sent to the executing authority. So all in all, the IT system speeds up not only the transmission, but also all the process that is leading to the transmission and the reception of a European investigation order.
You are muted, Katerina.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm doing that multiple times today. So we were speaking about a lot about security, and this question that I have for you might be a little bit technical. I don't know if you can answer it or not, but I was wondering how much discussion there was about just the security measures and the tech from a technical aspect. What would be done to ensure that transmission of information wasn't intercepted? Because, I mean, although paper can be physically intercepted perhaps more easily, right? In the digital sphere, in theory, more bad actors have kind of access to the stream of data, right? So my question is, how much conversation was there during the drafting of the EIOs about what security measures needed to be implemented?
In fact, we had important conversation with many actors. The e-evidence digital exchange system is not just the birth of a limited group of people that have designed an IT system. Actually, is the work of an expert group that was formed with at least one legal and one IT expert from every member state. And we had all in all about 20 or 25 meetings where we have discussed all aspects that were linked to the exchange of the European investigation order through the e-evidence digital exchange system. Furthermore, for the secure transmission, which ensures an end-to-end encryption, we are using the e-codex system. E-codex, it's a secure transmission system that has its own regulation, 850/2022, and that will be managed by the European Union large-scale agency for IT in exchanges in large-scale IT systems in judicial and home affairs area. So we are using tools that are especially created for the secure transmission of such judicial instruments.
Thank you. That's very interesting. Okay, so there are specific departments associated essentially to security of the e-codex system.
Well, for the security of e-codex, we have an entire agency that is guaranteeing the safest use of the system.
Okay. And I mean, so it sounds like there are a lot of advantages. Just to recap, we said that the e-codex and the EIO process will make transmission faster, more streamlined, safer. What are the other ways in which you expect the e-codex to change the EIO process?
So it is very important that this becomes the IT system for the cross-border judicial exchanges. So in the moment that you have all the practitioners connected to the system, in this moment, the cross-border activity and judicial activity is streamlined. So it would become faster. Also, the use of the system benefits from the fact that since it's a one-size-fits-all system, the training on the use of the actual IT tool, it is rather limited. regardless of the judicial instrument that is being used. Also, the e-evidence digital exchange system has the possibility and most likely will be connected to national case management system. So it will improve the flow of data from the national case management system to the e-evidence digital exchange system and cross-border to other competent authorities. Also, the European investigation order streamlines what now it's known as Judicial Atlas, and that is managed by the European Judicial Network and will continue to be managed by the European Judicial Network, which is a very important partner in the e-evidence digital exchange system. But the system, it's offering the possibility to identify the competent authority. And more the system evolves, the easier will be to identify the competent authority for the implementation of the of an EIO or even other judicial cooperation instruments.
And what would you change about the EIO or the EDIS system or e-codex if you could?
Well, I'm just an engineer, so I will not go and discussing about improving the European investigation order. In what concerns the e-evidence digital exchange system, it's still a system that is under continuous improvement because as we said, we have a number of piloting authorities from 8 member states, and we are receiving constant feedback from the practitioners.
Mhm.
The more practitioner we will be having using the system, the more we will be able to identify features of the system that were used. One of them is the machine translation. The more secure, the more the best, the better the machine translation it is, the more useful it will be, for instance, for the exchanges of the European investigation order, because there the part where the European investigation order has to be translated in the language of the executing authorities, it's a feature that takes time, a lot of time in the procedure, and it should be done by an authorized translator. Even if an authorized translator intervenes in the EIO exchange with the aid of a very good machine translation feature, of course, this process will be shortened. And last but not least, as I said, the extension of the e-evidence digital exchange system to virtually all cross-border judicial cooperation instrument, it will mean that all the community is being trained to use the system. And as you have a community that is using a system that is built around it, of course, everything would be much more streamlined also in terms of processes and accessibility.
So have you started receiving then feedback directly from prosecutors and judges using the system?
Yes, we have done, and as I said, two of the most important features that were prima facie very well received by the practitioner was the first, the fact that the system verifies the completeness of the form in terms of the compulsory fields that are in the European investigation order, and the second one is the machine translation. These are the most appreciated feature of the system.
Yeah. Will judges and prosecutors be able to reach out to the commission in the future to be able to? Is it a process of development that's sort of ongoing? Is it, or is the code kind of written and then set?
No, we actually have a revolving meeting, a Tuesday morning meeting with the representative of the member states, because we have to also point out the fact that the e-evidence digital exchange system, it's a decentralized system, meaning that every member state has to install it and has to operate it. Therefore, we are in close contact with the technical authorities, but also the legal authorities on a weekly basis. As I said, we are offering also a help desk for the member states. So we know at all times how the system is used, how is behaving correctly, and when is not behaving correctly. So we are receiving constant feedback, and we are working together for the improvement of the system. It is true that the Commission is the technical provider of the e-evidence digital exchange system, but for the operation and for support to the users, the member states are the ones that are responsible for it, and everything is done in close partnership. So to answer in shortly, the e-evidence digital exchange system will continue to evolve based on the feedback that we are receiving from the users.
Mm-hmm. And so if individual users have questions, they should reach out to the technical authorities of their individual member states. Is that the appropriate entity?
Indeed, that would be the appropriate course of action, also because they can reach the authorities in their own language, as it's also the case for the system. So the system, it's being used and deployed in all member states in the national language or languages of those member states.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for this overview. And just let me close this session by indicating that today at 2 p.m. in another edition of this podcast series, we are going to have the Austrian support in an interview, so we can learn from them then in practice what Dr. Nicolau now described from a European perspective. So the development is happening in one member state, which is in this case Austria. Dr. Nicolau, thank you so much for investing so much time into this endeavor. We very much appreciate this. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and all the best.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you as well, Dr. Koreniak, Dr. Polychronopoulos, and Dr. Fargo. It's been a pleasure to participate to this interview. Also, with Austria, we had an important partnership for the development of the e-evidence digital exchange system and also for e-codex. And Austria was one of the first member states to pilot those digital exchanges, not only in the European investigation order, but after other judicial, cross-border judicial cooperation instrument, like it's, for instance, the case of the small claims. So I would like to wish you Merry Christmas and a happy 2023. And I'm looking forward to continue the rollout of the e-evidence digital exchange system, and not to forget also to have the legal base for all these cross-border exchanges in a digital manner.
So do we. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. All the best. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.